I'm Kayla Stephen from Billy Blue College of Design at Torrens University, Australia. Now you're probably wondering, who the heck is Billy Blue? Well, I'm here to tell you a little bit about the history. What started out as Billy Blue magazine in 1977 evolved into a design agency by 1980. And by 1987, Billy Blue College of Design was established by industry for industry. This year, we are celebrating 10 years of our Bachelor of Branded Fashion education program. But tonight, we're here to Unstitch Convention and look towards the future. In partnership with Vogue Australia and The Iconic, it is my honour to introduce tonight's guest speakers. Alice Birrell is a fashion feature director at Vogue Australia and has many years of experience in the fashion industry as a fashion publicist, focusing on commentary on trends, profiling designers, personalities, models, and key tastemakers in the creative sphere. She has a specialist focus on that conjunction where fashion meets music and culture. Next, we have Jolda Azad, who is the head of own brand at The Iconic. Jolda has over 12 years of experience in fashion and e-commerce, both here in Australia and in Europe. In her current role at The Iconic and in previous roles, she worked across both women's wear and menswear, focusing on contemporary, brand and own brand, with deep experience in fashion, retail, e-commerce, sustainability and business strategy. We also have Amelia Lee here, who also works for The Iconic as one of the assistant buyers. Not only that, but Amelia is one of our very own Billy Blue graduates. Amelia graduated from the Bachelor of Branded Fashion Design in 2018 and went on to work at The Iconic as an assistant buyer. Not only that, but Amelia also has a very successful styling business where her work has featured in both local and international magazines, as well as red carpets and music videos. Tonight, we're going to be talking about all things fashion, featuring pieces created by Billy Blue graduates. Our esteemed guests from the industry will provide their thoughts on the student work, as well as share their industry insights into current and emerging trends, career opportunities, and more. No matter where you are in your fashion career journey, I hope tonight you feel inspired. What I'd like to do now is pass it over to Amelia, who's going to share a little bit about her experience here studying, what career opportunities that's led to, and she'll take you through our graduate creative pieces of work. Amelia, it is so great to have you back with us. Over to you.
Thanks, Kayla. It's so good to be back on campus, and I'm excited to be here with Alice and Jolda. My journey into fashion began when I was really young. My family wanted me to go into business, but I really wanted to do fashion. It was just a passion of mine. And Billy Blue was the course that made my parents let me go into fashion because it has a little bit of business and a bit of creativity as well. So that's how I got it across the line. And I graduated, as Kayla said, in the branded fashion design course, and I'm now working in buying at The Iconic. And also in styling. The course really helped me give a wide view of what the fashion industry can offer me in career opportunities, and also with work experience and also practical skills as well. So it was really amazing. I'm excited to introduce you to some of the amazing works that Billy Blue students have created. To our online viewers, if you have any questions for our guests, please pop them into the chat and we'll get back to you at the end. First up, we have Joshua, who created his label, Joshowich, which we'll now introduce you to.
Hello members of Vogue, The Iconic and guests. My name is Joshua and I graduated Billy Blue, the Bachelor of Branded Fashion Design in 2020. I'm the creator of my namesake label, Georgievich. Georgievich offers men's and women's designs ungoverned by conventions with an emphasis on minimalism. Georgievich's brutalist silhouettes create a dialogue for the nonconformist. My designs are non-trend driven, made in Australia with a palette of black and white. I have a focus on draping, form and function, in highly considered fabrics with hand finishes. I take a conceptual approach with the inspiration behind my collections. My current collection, entitled Point 4, is inspired by my daily surroundings and the subconscious effect that they have on me. Thank you for including me in the Unstitch Convention. I hope these pieces personally resonate with you and bring you as much inspiration as I had bringing them to life. Thank you.
So Alice and Yelda, what did you think of the piece?
Well, I'll go first, yeah, if that's okay. I think it's really interesting what he's done. I think, the pieces are kind of twists on classics. He's really obviously thought about those kind of staple pieces in a wardrobe, but he's really elevated them and kind of done his own twist. So that was the thing that I first noticed. And then you're kind of seeing some of those really high quality finishes. He mentioned hand details. I think you can see those kind of beautiful, really well thought out, tiny, tiny little details that you'd notice kind of looking close up. There's beautiful hook and eye at the back of the outfit. I think those are the things that stood out for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Alice. I love that it's such timeless pieces, like beautifully put together. My favorite piece was definitely the corset. I think that one is stunning, so outstanding. The Made in Australia aspect that he mentioned is massive, I believe. Like, it's so important nowadays. Consumers are asking for it, and it's not anymore that it's a nice to have for a brand. It's basically a must have. It's a basic. You have to consider the more conscious approach, lowering the carbon footprint there. I think that was really, really beautifully put together. That was my first impression.
And what sort of trends are you seeing in the sector of the industry?
In terms of what's coming through for me was the 2 collections per year, really minimizing or pulling back from that fast fashion aspect, making it slow fashion, and also saying there's no end of shelf life to the collection. It is a timeless piece and it shouldn't be marked down at the end of the season. I really believe in that one, and I think that was a massive, outstanding part of it.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we're coming out hopefully at the end of COVID, and it's such a period of time of reflection. And I think everyone's really considering what is important to them in their wardrobes and, what are those pieces that are going to last and the things that you aren't going to throw out. And I think those values have just kind of come to the surface when we've had that time to reflect and think, what's important to us. So to me, kind of focusing on those timeless pieces and really high quality pieces is something that is big in the conversation in fashion right now. And, those labels that are doing it really well, those are the ones that are kind of bubbling to the surface and kind of standing out, I think, especially at Vogue.
And when you guys think about your careers, what are the key considerations students should be thinking about if they want to take a career in fashion?
I think it's more that there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. I think speaking to people in the industry, everyone came from a completely different angle. How you mentioned that to your parents' business was super important. I would say my parents were probably similar. But then I also do know others in the same industry that are now in the same position that came from a super creative background. Others came from the business analytical background. So I believe if it's your passion, you're really interested in it, there isn't one perfect way of getting there, but multiple different ones.
Absolutely, I would completely agree with that. And, I think it's also, and I think looking at kind of Joshua's work as well, it's having that point of view and kind of being confident that you've got something to contribute to the conversation and, you have something that you're doing that is a bit different, and believing in that perspective and, kind of cultivating that. And I guess, in that work, you can see that he's kind of taken his own view of the world and put that into his clothing. So I think, whether you're a designer or whatever kind of career you want to pursue, it's about kind of, having something to say, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Josh's work really shows the point of difference, and like his timeless pieces as well. It's something that's really important and all designers should consider as well, having that point of difference and having something to say. So next up we have Uni. Uni was the recipient of the Billy Blue Branded Fashion Intro 2021 award, our annual student showcase. Uni's brand is called YL, and she's here to tell us about it.
Hi, my name is Uni Lee, and I am studying my last trimester of Bachelor of Branded Fashion Design at Birrell College of Design. My brand name is YL after my initials. YL focuses on expressing individuality by taking inspiration from distinctive themes and absorbing it into professional wear in each collection. My latest project was inspired by modern warrior and soft surrealism, and it was designed to embrace moderation but confidence and freedom throughout the entire collection. Thank you.
What did you guys think of that collection?
I think it's really interesting. I think, there's kind of this tailoring aspect which, is coming through really strong. But, it's almost like it's been remixed and kind of reworked, similar to what we saw before, but I think there's a bit more structure. And I think that was the most striking thing, is kind of really interesting shapes and really new ways of kind of thinking about tailoring. And you almost couldn't tell, I think there's a coat and there's different panels, but you're not sure, is it part of the same jacket or is it one piece? And I think it is one, incredible piece with a wrap around the middle. Lots to kind of unpack and look at. I think it was really interesting.
Yeah, definitely very similar. So I love the asymmetric silhouettes and most of the pieces, all the fabrication mixes coming together in a super, super interesting and beautiful way. The fabrications used the contrast of the fabrications, but then also incorporating trending silhouettes currently in the market, such as the mini lengths, which was captured really well as the whole shirting aspect that's coming through so strongly at the moment and will be trending at least for the next 1 or 2 seasons. I love that part about it.
Amazing. And what sort of trends do you see in Wiley's collection that you think you're seeing in the industry now?
I think it's a bit that workwear new defined, it's the new normal. So now that it's post-COVID, what you wear to the office, what you wear to work has changed a lot. So there isn't that standard, almost uniform anymore. You can define it the way you want to define it. And I think that came through really beautifully.
Yeah, I think we'll see an interesting shift into workplace attire moving in out of COVID.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know we're all thinking kind of, even getting dressed for today was kind of, what do we wear? But I think it's really interesting to see what will actually happen when we come back and to see young designers thinking about that. I mean, that's really smart. It's a really smart way to think. It is kind of about figuring out what the world looks like. That's kind of their job, you know, to kind of give us a wardrobe for this completely transformed world. So I think she's thinking in a really, really interesting way.
And in regards to looking at workwear or moving into that sort of section of the industry, how do you think that we can look at what the new normal wardrobe is, and like how can we shape our work and the students' work to fit into that new COVID life?
Yeah, I believe it's so much more now about how you feel in those clothes. Like, I know that she mentioned that she based it on confidence and freedom, and I also do believe that that's really what you see coming through in the collection. It's about giving the person, in this case, the woman wearing it, the confidence and being strong to wear basically whatever your new normal is.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, you know, there's this kind of element of perhaps convertibility. I think, you know, she's got some kind of ties and some fastenings, and I think that's giving the wearer an option of, you know, as you're saying, kind of freedom to choose how they want to wear it. And I think we're all kind of used to being in control of our wardrobes and, you know, feeling comfortable at home. So it will help the transition back into the real world if we have, you know, the choice to kind of wear it the way we want and feel really comfortable in what we wear.
And I think it's also interesting to think about how marketing is going to change in the fashion industry as well moving forward out of COVID. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to kind of come up with a way of talking to people who have gone through something, you know. I think we've all kind of collectively experienced something, you know, and I think when we're kind of thinking about stories at Vogue and what's really interesting, you know, it's got to be relevant to our lives, and we have changed. So I think kind of going back to the old ways and just designing something that we perhaps are all used to might not resonate in the same way. So I think those people who do address that and the designers that really acknowledge that will definitely catch our eye at Vogue, and it just adds that layer of relevance to the story, I think, yeah.
And from a commercial aspect, Jolda, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Alice said in terms of every range or collection now needs to tell more of a story. The consumer's interested in the background, like why did the designer put certain design elements into the range or into the design capsule? What was the background? What was it based off? Exactly, basically, to Alice's point, it needs to be interesting and different to what everyone else is already doing in the market or used to do.
Amazing. So now we're moving on to our third designer, which is Thomas, a 2020 graduate, and he took part in this year's Future Fashion exhibit at the iconic Powerhouse Museum. Here is his brand, Saint Sia.
Hi, I'm Thomas St. Cyr, and I'm a Billy Blue graduate from 2020, where I completed my Bachelor in Branded Fashion Design, where I was awarded Top Graduate of the Year. I called my brand St. Cyr, and my graduate collection was titled Formed Through Adversity, named so due to the challenges that I faced designing and creating a collection in the midst of a global pandemic. The concept for my Spring/Summer 21 collection looks to nature and how we as human beings interact with it, investigating the organic, the fluidity, and the rich patterns that are found within. I translated these various elements into a contemporary fashion context by utilizing nature's innately feminine lines and curves to contour and shape the body, creating new silhouettes, shapes, and proportions. My main focus was sustainability, especially from a textile lens. All synthetic materials used in this collection were dead stock material, and the rest were comprised of 100% natural and organic materials such as linen, cotton, and lyocell, all of which were locally sourced. Thank you very much for listening.
So Alice and Yelda, what did you guys think of that collection?
Yeah.
I think it was great. Yeah, I think I really loved that dress, with the velvet, and it's such a beautiful kind of light blue. But it really, he was speaking about those lines following the body and echoing the shapes of nature, and I think he's done that in a really beautiful way that kind of celebrates the form. I think that dress was the standout for me. So I loved it.
Yeah, I definitely loved the crushed velvet on that dress. Beautiful. I also really, really liked the pleated skirt, the gold metallic one. And again, the sustainability aspect was a big one for me. So being so conscious of what fabrications were used, it's either recycled or it's more sustainable fibers such as linen, which is, again, a really standout point later on for the customer when you go to market to talk about it. Why is your product different? Why does it stand out? And what were the thoughts behind using those fabrications? So, yeah, I think that was a really, really beautiful, curated assortment or range.
And Thomas talked a bit about how he found it difficult to create a collection during lockdown, and obviously the students were working from home. And he presented an amazing collection. How do you think we can bring that creativity out into the open world and out of lockdown?
Yeah, I think it's that thing of, going through a time and you can kind of sit there and say, oh, it's, really hard and it is really difficult. But often people, always talk about kind of structures and barriers do foster creativity, like having some framework to work within, as opposed to a completely blank page is a opportunity. I think having something that you're kind of bumping up against is motivation, and not to say we should all be kind of producing these incredible works in the difficult circumstances, but I think if we kind of view it as a chance to deal with something and confront it from a design perspective, the best design comes from trying to find solutions to problems. I think that would be the way I would frame it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think COVID or also lockdown fast-tracked a lot of things, or also made things possible or happen that wouldn't have necessarily happened this way. And I agree, it's about thinking outside of the box. It's like only because there's a barrier, it doesn't need to stop you. There might be another way, there might be a new way that we have never thought about. And Amelia, that we went through a very interesting up and down time with the Iconic when lockdown initially hit, because we had never all worked from home. For us, it was so essential to be around and to just bounce off each other being in the office, to then go back to a full Zoom world. And I know a lot of companies experienced that, but it made us learn and implement so many new processes and things that now looking back, I'd say I'm super proud of. And I'm sure this is the same that Thomas can say about his range. Doing it all from home is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think in situations like this, it definitely makes you have to think off your feet and, explore and look outside the box, as you said, Alice. So how do you think that COVID has affected everyone's entrepreneurial spirit, and, how has that changed things in the industry?
Yeah, it's kind of made us all think in very enterprising ways, and even at Vogue, where you kind of say, oh, this is my job, I come in and I write a story, or you can't think like that anymore. And I think a lot of these young designers recognize that. And if I were to sort of say, oh, I can only work from the office, or I wouldn't have a magazine out every month. So I think that it's going back to those, during times of great need or adversity, just people find this kind of extra, entrepreneurial spirit or attitude that means that they can do things that, before you would have said, I can't do, or we would have said, no, we can't shoot a Vogue shoot over Zoom, but we did it. So, and it looked amazing. So, it wasn't my work, but some of the team did an amazing job. And, I think that's really exciting to take those barriers down.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. It definitely taught us or teaches anyone resilience, how to get through a time like this. And I think it's even more impressive if it happens so early on in your career, still as students finishing your collections, to then already have to be so resilient and work around it. Where we were probably a bit in a lucky position to already have a couple of years of experience in the industry to sort of know how it should work and find our ways around it. So yeah, definitely resilience, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how for the students it will set them up for an amazing career as well, just in terms of resilience and just getting over barriers. I think this is one of the toughest times you'll experience in your life, and I think it's just an amazing experience for us all to have and to bounce back and be even better for it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And last but not least, we have Tabitha. Tabitha is all about championing the local over global with her brand Henry, and she's here to tell us about it.
Hi, my name is Tabitha Hendry and I'm a Billy Blue graduate from 2020 with a Bachelor in Branded Fashion Design. My brand name was named Tabitha Teagan and my finals collection was called New Breed. So New Breed was all about championing the local over the global and was inspired by the textures and silhouettes of Australia's flora and fauna. I've always loved working with botanical dyes and the unexpected wildness that they can create on fabric, which I enjoyed experimenting with throughout my collection. New Breed is a collaborative collection that I designed, developed and showcased with the emerging creatives of Australia's tomorrow. The imperfections and decorative qualities of natural fabrics and handmade processes will be celebrated throughout this trans-seasonal collection. Thank you.
So what did you two think of the collection?
I'll let you go first, as always.
I thought it was beautiful. I think it was really, super romantic, super feminine, but, optimistic, which I think we all need right now. I think it felt really Australian as well. Like it's that really nice aspect of kind of recognising that we have a style that, we can call our own, and young designers are tapping into that in their own way. Yeah.
Definitely agree. Yeah, beautiful feminine silhouettes. Really love that. Really, really gorgeous materials that were used. My favorite piece was definitely the frilly wide leg high-waisted pant. I think that one is super cool. Stunning. And I agree, very, very Australian, the range.
And we saw a lot of colour and different silhouettes there. Coming out of COVID, we're going to see a lot more colour and a lot more interesting shapes. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's that we talk about it a lot in the office when we're kind of talking about trends. We're going to come out and suddenly all be wearing, feathers and sequins, and we've been seeing that on the runway. There's been so many kind of, calling it dopamine dressing, this like idea of dressing in a happy way. And I think there will be that, but then I think there will be another aspect, which is, kind of wanting to be comfortable, as we were saying before. Some of us will want to go out and put our highest heels on, but some people will want to feel, comfortable and have those softer silhouettes and those natural fabrics. And And what I think Tabitha's done really beautifully is there is that kind of dressed up feeling, but obviously she's used natural fabrics and in a way that, you know, breathable for hot Australian summers, and I think people will be comfortable in that. So it's kind of nice to see the two come together.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of color, again, we talk about it all the time, and we're going through the trend forecast in the office in terms of what is post-COVID, what's going to happen in terms of color. And I think when we initially saw it, it was a bit scary, all the brights, all the colors coming through. And now that it's actually in market and the customer is reacting amazingly to it, it just shows you like all the bright greens, the pinks, the yellows are selling out first. So she's ready for color, and she's ready to go out. But I also do agree that every piece needs to be super versatile. You have to be able to wear it day to night, dress it up or down, like wear it with flats, wear it with chunky sandals, or dress it up with heels for more occasion wear. And I think that was really, really beautifully represented in Tabitha's collection.
And just wanted to touch on a little bit about sustainability. And obviously, we're all moving towards a more sustainable future, and how we can incorporate that into the fashion industry. Obviously, the fashion industry is notorious for waste, but we are getting better with it. And we're making steps to use natural fabrics and sustainable production. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there isn't really a big conversation right now in fashion. I think if you're not thinking kind of circular, then there's not much of a future. I think, you know, we're obviously using raw resources at a rate that is not sustainable, and that's, you know, what the word sustainable is all about. So designers that are thinking in that way and sourcing fabric from, you know, dead stock and kind of things that are already out there is probably going to be the norm. You know, and you may as well kind of get in on the ground floor and do it now. You know, we know our readers care about it so much. They're very, very well versed in everything sustainable, so they will ask those questions. And, you know, as a designer, you kind of have to have the answer. And, you know, I think we see this here. She's got this like beautiful approach to kind of natural fibers that, you know, will break down, this kind of moving away from these synthetics that, you know, end up in our landfill for millions of years, or not quite millions. But yeah, I think that's the way to think, and I think it's just so crucial. We can't kind of overstate how important it is.
Yeah, I think it's really important for designers to consider that sustainable aspect as well, and moving into that.
Absolutely, completely agree. And also doing it myself, or my team do it daily. I do understand, or we do understand, it's not the easiest material sometimes to source. It is longer lead times. It needs certification. It's not as straightforward as it would be to just use conventional materials. So, yeah, but I do believe it's absolutely the step into the right direction. And it's great to see that coming through so strongly in her range already, that she's considered that literally from the get-go, and just, yeah, setting a statement there, making a statement.
And it's really amazing to see that all of the students today have considered that in their collections. And it's amazing to see that all students are thinking about that when creating as well. And it will really set the future for the Australian fashion industry. So we've had a really amazing time looking through everyone's collections and discussing everything. We do have a couple of questions come through in the chat. So we'll just bring some of these up. So we have a question from Cameron. How imperative is it in today's market to have an ethical rating on a brand as a whole? Is price point or ethics more important to the general consumer, in your opinion?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. I believe it's very important. Like, we talked to it a lot today. What I do believe, though, and I also tell the team almost every day, that I don't believe it's only the sustainable aspect. I still believe in fashion and in design. To me, it's forever product first. The product, the design needs to be right. And then the sustainability, not to say it comes second, absolutely not. It comes almost together, but it can only work if the product and the design stand out to the customer as well.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I mean, you know, that's kind of the job of the designer, right? To make sustainability desirable and to make these products, you know, things that you want to buy. Because ultimately, if you know, don't want them, then there's no place for them. So it's kind of creating that desire and making sure that that's there. But yeah, so I mean, and I think the consumer thinks that way too. You know, they will say that sustainability is important to them, but they still want to buy a pair of shoes that they love and a pair of, you know, trousers that make them feel really good or a dress that excites them. So I think, you know, you kind of have to think about it all.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely a fine balancing act between the two of them, making sure that it is available to consumers as well. Sometimes with some of the more sustainable or ethical pieces, it can be a little bit pricier, but making sure that you get that balancing act so it is available to everyone, I think it's really important. We do have another question from Cameron again. Do you think that gender has less of a role in purchasing? When do you think we'll get to a stage where branding is targeted at consumers rather than gender?
Yeah, super interesting one. I actually was going to mention that earlier on, that we didn't see that unisex aspect today, but it's becoming more and more important, that there isn't the line anymore like how you select gender first to shop apparel then or to shop your outfit then. It is almost the piece itself stands for itself, and there is no gender. It's genderless or it's unisex, becoming more and more important, and we also can actually see it reflected in the sales and in the customer demand already.
Yeah, I mean, I would completely agree as well. And I think, you know, that's not to say, though, that all the clothes need to kind of end up looking the same or becoming, you know, one silhouette. I think we've kind of moved beyond that stage of saying this is unisex or genderless because it's a T-shirt. I mean, you can still have a beautiful dress and it doesn't matter who wears it. It's for anyone. You know, it can still look these kind of codes that we traditionally would have associated with genders. But, you know, I think that's breaking down now. And yeah, perhaps I hope one day there is a day when you just walk into a store and there's no department, it's just beautiful clothes and anyone can buy what they want and feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, for sure. My collection at Billy Blue was a unisex collection or a genderless collection as well. So I think moving forward, like, it's definitely a consideration, and we're seeing it now in the market too, that we're moving away from that and just, you know, clothing for everyone and everybody as well.
Absolutely.
And just a question from EJ. Did you guys know what avenue/role you wanted to take after uni? I know I want to do something in the fashion industry, but there are so many roles that I'm keen to take on. How did you guys sort of discern where you ended up in your careers and how did you get there?
Yeah, cast my mind back, it's starting to feel like a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, I think I felt actually quite similarly. I definitely knew that I wanted to be in and around the fashion industry and doing something, you know, I knew I quite liked writing, but, you know, could I do that at the same time? So I just tried a lot of different things and just try them out and see how they felt. You know, I think one of the most valuable things that came out of my studies was getting that foot in the door and getting an internship. You know, you can learn so much in the classroom or at university, but having that connection to the industry is just, you know, you can't put a price on that, or you can't, you know, that was my first step and I never looked back. So, yeah, I did some steaming of clothes and taping of shoes in the fashion cupboard. I tried all sorts of things. I did, long hours on set and kind of till 10 p.m. at night or packing suitcases. And I thought, I think I want to write stories. And, you know, luckily there was room for me to do that. And I slowly tried that out and then, just kind of ended up in writing because it felt right. So I would say just get in and try a bunch of things and see which one feels good to you.
I actually didn't know that I wanted to work in fashion. So I studied business studies or economics just to keep it as open as possible and to decide later. And it was absolute coincidence that I ended up in fashion. I got offered a job. I did an internship, got offered a job at Zalando in Berlin. They were still small then, quite a startup, an e-com very similar to the Iconic. started as an assistant buyer. At that point, I didn't even know that role exists, that a fashion buyer exists in the industry, but I really loved from the get-go combining the analytical side with the fashion side and the more creative side. Really enjoyed it, and very similar to you, worked really long hours, did a bit of everything, helped out wherever help was needed, and worked my way basically up through buying until I moved across to the other end of the world to take on a similar role at the Iconic. And yeah, still here 6 years later and can say I love it. But I totally agree with you, Alice. We have so many team members, or also more junior team members, moving around in roles, and I would forever encourage doing that. It's like, only because you started in buying, it doesn't mean you have to stay. Maybe you discover that you want to move into styling, you want to move into a more creative role. Maybe you want to move into planning, and it's numbers at the end of the day. And our company is super supportive of it, which I love, and it's encouraging, especially if it's early on in your career. Like, take the chance, you can always come back.
Yeah, for sure. I think, well, I'm still in my baby steps of my fashion career. So I'm still, I'm doing styling as well as a creative outlet for me, but I'm also in buying for the same reasons, you really enjoyed it. Is just the mix of the analytical, but also that creative part of it as well. So I think like the biggest advice to get into your fashion career and deciding what you want to do is just to try everything that you're interested in, and just to test the waters and see what you're most interested in. Definitely internships are amazing way to get an experience in the fashion industry, especially, assisting with people in roles that you think you might be interested as well. It's definitely really important. So I've got another question here. What is one thing that you learned in studying / in your career that's carried with you?
Oh, that's a hard one. I think it is about, I think there's kind of how to put this, being in the right place, the right time, people talk about. But if you're kind of in the right place all the time, I always feel like, a door will open. So I think just being around it as much as possible, kind of, if you love it, you will find yourself there when, you kind of want to be there and you want to be around what's going on. So I think, just get in there and be around it as much as you can. But I think the other thing I've learned as well, because I work in the media landscape and obviously it's changed so much, don't box yourself into thinking this is my job, or, I do this and this is what I'm going to do for 20 years. I think you kind of, especially in fashion, no matter where you work, it is by its very nature very changeable. So be willing to move with it. Be willing to upskill all the time, to add, something you thought you'd never understand to your skill set. Don't say, oh, I'm not on TikTok because I'm too old. I am too old, but it's part of kind of knowing what's going on. So, I think those two things are super important to me.
Yeah, definitely very similar. I would say be open-minded and not too fixated on that perfect career path. I, to be honest, didn't plan to ever be an own brand, and I'm loving it now. That opportunity came up. I got offered this chance 3 years ago now, and took it on. And I wasn't so sure about it. It was definitely out of my comfort zone, and I wouldn't probably have put my hand up myself for it. But because it was put in front of me and be like, do you want to give it a go? I was like, at the end of the day, you have nothing to lose. And you can only learn and gain from it. And again, if that's really not what you want to do, no one's stopping you from going back to what you were doing. So it's definitely being open-minded and taking on new challenges, because you can only grow if you take like a step outside of your comfort zone.
Sure. And how has technology influenced the fashion industry? We're seeing some collabs with luxury brands and gaming, augmented reality and VR in retail, to name a few. How important is it that fashion students stay up to date with all the tech? Do they have to learn it or be aware of it? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time, right, at the moment with the metaverse and everything happening digitally. I think there's definitely you benefit from understanding what's going on there and kind of, keeping on top of it. But you don't necessarily have to know how to create it or, if that's not your area. But yeah, I think it is something to be aware of, and I think it will change the way we all consume fashion. So I think definitely, we're sort of seeing these big luxury companies now creating NFTs when, 10 years ago they wouldn't have known what that means, or and the kind of money that people are paying for them is incredible, and that has a lot of power behind it. It shows the power of the brand, shows the power of, that world that exists online. So I think it is hugely important. I think we're kind of yet to see it fully play out. I don't know, how the physical and the digital are going to coexist, but they definitely will. I don't think the physical's going away. But it's exciting to watch. I think we're kind of at the start of this new stage of the internet, and I'm kind of closely watching. But yeah, I think staying on top of it is definitely important.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely with you on that one. It's just constantly evolving and keeping up. Whoever stops will be left behind in terms of brands not moving quickly enough. I think we've seen it multiple times in the market for brands thinking they are ahead and are dominating that market. It's so quick that someone comes up and through technology and through new features and being cooler or more approachable to the customer, connecting better with the consumer, just taking over. And I think that's also very impressive that like a quite small brand can very quickly make it if it's in the right way and if it's different and innovative.
I think during COVID as well, we've seen a lot of brands experimenting with VR, or we've seen like Balenciaga collab with Fortnite and all sorts of other really crazy collabs that we would have never thought, even a year ago, that we would never think would ever happen. So I think it's really important for brands to keep on the pulse with technology evolving as well. So yeah.
Absolutely.
And what's one crucial advice that you'd give every fashion student before entering uni and the industry?
Look, I would never put it down to, thinking that there's like a make or break thing that you need to know before even going into, university and the industry. I wouldn't, especially in today's day and age, the fashion jobs of the future are going to be very different to the ones that were around when I graduated. So, I mean, I don't think there is one specific thing that you need to sort of know. I think what we were saying before, just being open to change and being hungry for the change and what's happening in culture and society. But I think staying tapped in would be the thing that is most important, and changing, as I said before. But I also wouldn't think that, there's one thing you have to know. I think you're learning along the way all the time. So, yeah, just staying open.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anything as a set base that you have to know beforehand. You will learn it during either the course, or a lot of the things you also only learn on the job later on. But if there's probably one thing that I would tell people, or we often tell people that are not in the industry, and it's not in a negative way, but it's definitely not as glamorous as it looks from the outside. It's not that glamorous role that is shown in the movies, but I'm sure everyone knows that that's you tonight. It's hard work, but it's also a lot of fun, and it's inspiring and different every day. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the number one thing is just to be adaptable is the main thing. You're always doing things different days. You've got different things on. Things are changing all the time. So it's just about being adaptable, but also just being really friendly and making those industry connections and just making sure that you're, friendly to everyone in the industry. It can really take you a long way.
definitely, because you'll probably be working with them again.
Exactly.
So yeah, everyone knows everyone. So it's be kind and nice is very important.
Australia is very small.
Not
Very
just
small.
Australia, it's such a small world. I even work with people again that I worked with in Germany. So I'm like, wow, it's a very small world.
Very small world.
Yes.
Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you guys. I'm going to hand back to Kayla to wrap up.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Let me start by just saying how much I've enjoyed seeing some of the work of our fabulous students here at Billy Blue. Thank you so much to Alice and Vogue Australia, to Amelia and Zelda and The Iconic, who have all made tonight's event possible. In some really exciting news, I now get to announce that we're adding to our fashion education offering. At Torrens University Australia, we know what a massive employer the fashion industry is. In a recent report released by EY and AFC, in the latest financial year, the fashion and textile industry in Australia contributed to $27 billion into the national economy, generating over 500,000 jobs across the industry. Fashion goes beyond just fashion design. It's a broad industry that offers so many different career opportunities, as we have heard tonight. That is why we're so excited to launch our brand new course, the Bachelor of Fashion Marketing and Enterprise. This course can be studied solely online or on campus, or a blended opportunity of both. It is complementary to our current offering of the Bachelor of Branded Fashion Design, but this is really going to focus more on the creation and management of a commercial fashion enterprise with the constantly evolving fashion landscape that we live in. It's going to be covering topics around digital communication, social media, marketing and brand development within fashion retail operations. It's going to equip you with the skills and knowledge you'll need to have a prosperous career in the fashion industry. Whether you are looking to study the Bachelor of Branded Fashion Design or our new Fashion Marketing and Enterprise, rest assured that both courses are designed to shape the next generation of global leaders in fashion. If you do still have questions around the courses, please don't hesitate to get in touch with the team or visit our website. In some really exciting news, with our partnership with Vogue Australia, we're offering a Vogue Australia Billy Blue Scholarship. Applications are open and will close on January 31st. Visit the website for more information. To close out the evening, I'd like to bring attention to Thread Together. Many Australians do not have access to basic items such as warm winter clothes or comfortable or waterproof shoes. Thread Together is an organisation in Australia whose main mission is focusing on sourcing new or excess clothing from fashion retailers and redistributing these items to those in the community that need it most. With thanks to The Iconic, who are Thread Together's charity partner, we have made a donation to continue their inspiring work. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great evening.